The reading comes from the first letter of Peter, chapter 1, verses 1 to 21. Peter, an apostle of Jesus Christ, to God's elect, exiles scattered throughout the provinces of Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia, who have chosen according to the foreknowledge of God the Father, through the sanctifying work of the Spirit, to be obedient to Jesus Christ and sprinkled with his blood. Grace and peace be yours in abundance. Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. In his great mercy, he has given us new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, and into inheritance that can never perish, spoil, or fade. This inheritance is kept in heaven for you, who through faith are shielded by God's power until the coming of the salvation that is ready to be revealed in the last time. In all this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you may have to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. These have come so that you are proven genuineness in your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. Though you have not seen him, you love him. And even though you do not see him now, you believe in him and are filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy, for you are receiving the end result of your faith, the salvation of your souls. Concerning this salvation, the prophets, who spoke of the grace that has come to you, searched intently and with the greatest care, trying to find out the time and circumstances to which the Spirit of Christ in them was pointed when he predicted the sufferings of the Messiah and the glories that would follow. It was revealed to them that they were not serving themselves but you, when they spoke of the things they have now been told you by those who have preached the gospel to you by the Holy Spirit sent from heaven. Even angels long to look at these things. Therefore, with minds that are alert and fully sober, set your hope on the grace to be brought to you when Jesus Christ is revealed at his coming. As obedient children, do not conform to the evil desires you had when you lived in ignorance, but just as he who called you holy, so be holy in all you do. For it is written, "Be holy, because I am holy." Since you all come on a Father who judges each person's work impartially, live out your time as foreigners in a reverent fear. For you know that this is not with perishable things, such as silver or gold, that you are redeemed from the empty way of life handed down to you from your ancestors, but with the precious blood of Christ, a lamb without blemish or defect. He was chosen before the creation of the world, but it was revealed in these last times for your sake. Through him you believe in God, who raised him from the dead and glorified him, and so your faith and hope are in God. This is the word of the Lord.
Please do take your seats. Since I started telling you about when I was dating Jenny, used to buy her flowers, let me tell you something else. She used to live in London, and I'm from Birmingham, and so I was always slightly intimidated when I went to visit her in London at the trains. For some reason, that was the thing that got to me. They were so long and so big compared to the ones in Birmingham, but even more the tube. And trying to sort of make my way from Euston Station, where the train got in from Birmingham, across London with my bags for the weekend or whatever, I used to be in awe, looking around at experienced Londoners who just seemed to know how to stand on the tube. They could be reading their papers, reading their book, reading a Kindle, whatever, not seemingly holding on at all, and yet maintaining their balance perfectly. And there was me, clinging on for dear life, trying to pull my bag along with all my stuff in for the weekend. There was something about the way they stood. They had balance, they had poise that enabled them to make it look so easy, almost effortless. I think the letter of 1 Peter, without making it easy or effortless to be a Christian, is all about preparing Christians to, if you like, just stand upright in the world. Through all the twists and turns that our journey through life takes us, how can we stay upright without keeling over, whatever the bumps in the road or the rail line, if you like? You might have heard in the reading, just in the first chapter, Peter mentions to this group of people he's writing to, those names, Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, is basically modern-day Turkey in the 1st century, where the Christian church is beginning to grow. And he says to them, you have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. He will go on the letter to explore what some of those are, but clearly for them, the road has been a very bumpy one, a very twisting and turning one. And yet, what Peter is confident about, I think, is that through engaging with what he has to say, these Christians that he's writing to can be much more like those Londoners than the Birmingham boy, standing confidently whichever way the road takes. And it's interesting how he begins this letter as he's beginning to address how they'll be able to do that. He doesn't give them a series of, if you like, life hacks that are going to help them to stand more upright more of the time. There might be a place for that, how to, win your morning or something. What he does is he talks at length about the hope that Christians have. And so I just want to explore that hope with you over these next few minutes. What it is, what difference it makes, and how we should respond to it in our lives and ourselves. So firstly, what the hope is. Well, you hear it right at the beginning of the sort of main body of the letter, where Peter writes, "Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. In his great mercy, he has given us new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead." Now, the way that hope works, whatever our hope is in, although it's a word we might not use very often, at least not in a kind of big sense, we might talk in small sense about hoping for something to happen. But the big sense of the word hope is something like this: some end, some future in view that makes a difference to how our lives go now. Whatever end we have in view for our lives, wherever the sort of future is, it changes the way we think about the present. And you think about it in a very, very simple way. Imagine 2 workers doing a menial task in a factory, something like, threading beads onto a thread. Something which is very menial, and one worker has said, look, if you do this task for a whole year, your reward will be £10,000. And then to another worker, exactly the same task, you did this task for a whole year, your reward will be £10 million. Just imagine those 2 workers meeting up in the break room during one of their breaks. You can imagine the guy who's been promised £10,000 would be like, is this not just the most dull and awful and painful job? We've got to thread beads and all we get for it is 10 grand at the end of the year. But the guy who's getting £10 million has said, what are you talking about? This is wonderful, this is amazing. I just have to sit here all day and thread beads and I get £10 million at the end of it. Whatever their future is, changes the way, very practically, they think about their present situation. That's the big sense of the word hope. And what Peter is saying here, if you like, the hope that Christians have is bigger and deeper and richer than any of us could possibly get our heads round. It is extraordinary beyond words. But to really understand how extraordinary it is, we need to think a little bit more about how hope actually works in our lives. It's a commonplace, obvious thing to say that in all of our lives we are sort of playing out a story. Now, it might be the story that we hoped we were playing out when we were kids. I dreamed I was going to be an astronaut or whatever. Chances are the story isn't going quite the way we thought it would. But all of us are in this point in time, today, right now, we can't help but think of our lives as being, if you like, a story that we're in the middle of. And so the question is it going to end in a happy ending or a sad one? And underneath everything else that's going on in our lives, in politics at the moment, in global affairs, for each one of us, if you like, that simple question, I'm halfway through the story, a quarter of a way, 3/4, whatever it is it going to end happy? When Barack Obama was running for office, he gave a speech which resonated with Americans where he made just this point. He's talking about Americans, but I think the same is true for Brits. He said, each day, it seems, thousands of Americans are going about their daily rounds, dropping off the kids at school, driving to the office, flying to a business meeting, shopping at the mall, trying to stay on their diets. And they're coming to the realization that something is missing. They are deciding that their work, their possessions, their diversions, their sheer busyness is not enough. They want a sense of purpose, a narrative arc to their lives. They need an assurance that they are not just destined to travel down that long highway towards nothingness. It might not be something that we wake up every morning and say, all right, today is a new chapter of my story. But underneath all the busyness, all the work, all the leisure, all the diversions, do you hear what he's saying? We have this sense that the story's going somewhere. How can we know that it's going to end happily, joyfully, with a sense of meaning and purpose and delight, and not bitter, sad, broken, or even just grey and empty? And precisely into that longing somewhere in our hearts, Peter says the Christian hope, if you like, will guarantee you that the end of your story can be a happy one, happy beyond your imagining, joyful, purposeful, meaningful, delightful. That's exactly what the Christian faith offers. Because Jesus rose from the dead, there is life beyond the grave for anyone who receives from him life now. And it's extraordinary the way that Peter describes it. That's the inheritance that we thought about with the children, that can never perish, spoil, or fade. And as if to sort of underscore how safe this is, he then says, this inheritance is kept in heaven for you. A few weeks ago, we struggled to get into that safe behind me because no one could remember what the code was. And we spent days trying to work it out. It's a safe, because if you don't know the code, it's really hard to get into. Peter says the inheritance, the promise, the hope that we have is kept under lock and key by God. And he goes on, even better, this inheritance is kept in heaven for you, who through faith are shielded by God's power until the coming of the salvation that is ready to be revealed in the last time. You know, the real reason we couldn't get into that safe is that no one could remember the code, and there are only a few people, I think, left in the church who ever knew the code in the first place. What Peter's is saying, if you like, the safe is safe, and the people are safe. You and I will be kept safe through all the ups and downs of life. This isn't so much the sort of pension triple lock. This is the absolute guarantee of God that this hope that Peter's talking about, it's kept for you, and you will be kept for it. There's no way, if you're a follower of Jesus, that you'll miss out on it. There's no way that the ending of your story one day will not be a happy one, although it might have twists and turns along the way. And now can you see why Peter might want to lead with this? If they're in a situation, these people are going through grief and all kinds of trials, they need something that they can hold on to that is safe, that won't be lost if life takes a turn for the worse, which Peter's expecting it will. In his book, The Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien has a moment where Sam and Frodo going on this extraordinary, impossible quest, this journey that has taken the darkest turn, and it looks like all hope is lost. There's a moment where Sam looks up, and this is how Tolkien describes it. Sam sees, peeping among the cloud rack through the clouds, above a dark tor high up in the mountains, Sam saw a white star twinkle for a while. The beauty of it smote his heart as he looked up on that forsaken land, and hope returned to him. For like a shaft, clear and cold, the thought pierced him that in the end the shadow was only a small and passing thing. There was light and high beauty forever beyond its reach. And that leads us, I think, to the difference that Christian hope makes. If there is something that is available to us that can never perish, spoil, or fade, something that all the ups and downs of our lives, all the twists and turns that life in this world takes, but it can never take it, never damage it, never lose its luster, if you like, then in our own lives, Peter is saying, I think, make that your everything and your ultimate. So that even, as verse 6 and 7 describe it, there might be painful trials, grief in all kinds of trials. Even those trials, he says, can just be about proving our faith to be more genuine. If you like, increasing our grasp and our longing for what's coming in the future. The picture that he gives of gold being refined in a furnace. When a furnace burns, it burns up everything else except the gold. And in fact, that makes the gold all the purer and stronger and better. And Peter's saying, if you make Jesus Christ and the hope that he offers you your ultimate thing, the thing in the end that you lean on above all else, then even should you lose everything, if you like, the furnace burns up everything else in your life, you still have everything really worth holding on to. And in fact, I guess the point would be for us, we, at the moment, I don't think, are in the situation, if we're believers in this country, where we realistically face grief in all kinds of trials. If you know the history of the church, this first century increasingly became a very difficult time to live as a Christian. And Christians could expect over the course of that first century to increasingly experience deep, deep pain and suffering precisely because they're Christians. I don't think that that is an imminent threat in the same way. None of us, I don't think in this country, are about to be thrown to the lions for being followers of Jesus Christ. And yet maybe it is precisely in this kind of time when we experience, compared to previous centuries, enormous comfort and freedom to practice our faith, that we need more than ever to hear this call to put Jesus Christ as our ultimate. Because what it means, and this is a painful realization, I think, and a difficult challenge for us to consider, is that all other things in our lives are, at best, penultimate. Now, it would be easy to look at the state of, politics today and think how grateful I am that politics isn't ultimate, that Jesus Christ is Lord over the mess of our political situation. Well, it certainly doesn't look like it's very strong and stable and lasting at the moment, so we can live with that. Perhaps if we lived in China at the moment, with President Xi getting his unprecedented third term, we might be more tempted to think that politics, our leadership at the moment, is going to last forever. So perhaps in our lives we need to hear less, politics isn't going to last. We already hope and believe that's the case. But things that we do value, things that we do care for, much, much more. The careers that we're building, the homes that we're making, the marriages that we're grateful for, this church building that we're proud of. In the end, all of those things I've named won't last. As much of a blessing as each one of them is, in the most wonderful way, they are all, at best, penultimate. And Peter's saying to these believers, and I think through them, if you like, to us as well, make the one thing that will last forever into your ultimate thing, and treat all other things in your life as the penultimate things they are, and you will know deep joy and purpose, and you will have the happiest of endings to your story that you could possibly imagine. But if you don't, then one day those things that you have made your ultimate things will fail you. They'll let you down. They can't but do that. May it be for each of us that when that day comes when we do lose all else, that Jesus Christ shines like that star that Sam Gamgee saw, twinkling brightly, that darkness can never reach and never touch. Which leads us very briefly just to think about how we should respond. I think the response that Peter calls for is verse 13 of the reading. With minds that are alert and fully sober, set your hope on the grace to be brought to you. He says, set your hope as holy people. And the word holiness is a sort of setting apart language. It might sound quite extreme. Everything I've said might sound like it's quite extreme. But it follows, the logic follows. Set yourselves wholly and fully apart to belong to God. Make him your everything. If you like, lean all of your weight on Jesus Christ. Turn from those temporary things, whether it's the bad things that you know you shouldn't be leaning on, or the good things that seem like they're okay to lean on. Your marriage, your home, your career, your church. Lean on Jesus Christ. And that is the only way in the end that when the sharpest turns and twists and the deepest valleys come your way, you won't be knocked off your feet like I was on the tube. You won't find yourself sprawled on the floor without hope. But your hope, in fact, and your grasp of it will only have deepened and become stronger. Now, the extraordinary thing is that this God who invites us to hope in him hasn't just, if you like, spoken down from on high and told us to do it. He has stepped into our world in the person of Jesus Christ and has laid down his life. He has been knocked out, if you like, for us, sprawled on the floor in Jesus, kicked into the gutter because of his love for us and his determination not to lose us. So as we come and eat and drink the Lord's Supper, and we receive again all the benefits by faith of what God has done for us in Jesus, or perhaps today in particular, consider how this invitation to eat and drink with God is an invitation also to hope in God, to make Jesus Christ your ultimate, and to look forward to the day when all else will burn up, but he will last forever. Let's take a few minutes, shall we, to be quiet and respond to these things in our own hearts. And then Joe Jordan's going to come and lead us in some prayers of intercession. Let's be quiet, though, for a few minutes.